If you've ever mounted an action camera somewhere that's hard to reach, like under the seat, on the kickstand, or on the frame of your bike, you already know the biggest hassle: controlling it from a distance. Even the simplest task, like starting or stopping a recording, becomes a whole ordeal. I'd have to pull out my phone, unlock it, open the DJI Mimo app, wait for it to connect, all that just to perform one basic action. So when someone mentioned the DJI Osmo Action Remote in a comment on a previous video, I immediately wondered why I hadn't bought one already, considering just how much time it could have saved me. And then I saw its price. This thing is not cheap. But I already knew that having a remote record button would be incredibly valuable for the way I shoot. And the price started to make a bit more sense when I realized it also includes features like GPS data logging and multi-camera control, things I didn't strictly need but was curious to try out. So I bought it, and after spending some time with it, in this review I'll show you what it does well, as well as its frustrating limitations, including one that I think will be a deal breaker for quite a few people. Let's start with the good, which really boils down to how this remote speeds up your workflow when your camera is out of reach. Before, just starting a recording remotely meant pulling my phone out, unlocking it, opening the DJI Mimo app, waiting for it to connect, and then hitting record. All of this would take around 20 seconds. With the Osmo Action Remote, the initial pairing takes about 5 seconds the first time you turn it on, and once it's connected, it stays connected. As long as the remote is left on, record presses are instant. No phone, no app, no reconnecting. And when your camera is mounted somewhere awkward on a bike, that alone is a massive quality of life improvement. The next feature that works really well is Wake Up. If your camera turns off, either manually or because it hit the auto power off timer, you can wake it up by holding the record button, or start recording with a single press, as long as it's done within 8 hours of powering off. And this is just something you can't do with the DJI Mimo app. This is very handy for intermittent recording because it means you can let the camera sleep to save its battery, but still be ready at any moment to start capturing without having to reach for it. Beyond just recording and stopping, the remote lets you change between shooting modes and custom presets without touching the camera or your phone. This is done using the quick switch button on the left, which mirrors the quick switch button on the camera itself. By default, it just toggles between photo and video, but once you've saved custom presets, this becomes far more useful. You can remotely switch between presets with different stabilization modes, fields of view, frame rates, color profiles, and so on. This means, for example, that you can very easily switch between recording normal frame rate clips and slow motion recordings. Finally, if you own multiple DJI cameras, the remote supports multi-cam control, letting you start and stop recording on up to 16 cameras at once. I could only test this with 3 cameras since the remote doesn't support the Osmo Pocket 3, but pairing and control were smooth. It's something I'm interested in using on bike rides, especially for capturing multiple angles without having to babysit each camera individually. That said, there is a catch. In multi-camera mode, you lose the ability to remotely wake up your cameras. Once they go to sleep, maybe due to inactivity, the remote can no longer wake them up and start recording. So as you've seen, the DJI Osmo Action Remote handles the fundamentals pretty well. But at this price, you'd expect a refined overall experience, especially once you move beyond basic camera control. And that's where the cracks start to show. One of the headline features of this remote is GPS data logging, things like speed, distance, and elevation. This will appeal most to progress tracking and training focused users like cyclists or runners who want performance data in their footage. While it generally works, the problem lies in the desktop experience for adding those data overlays. While the DJI Mimo app offers multiple overlay themes, DJI Studio, the desktop software, currently only provides a single design option. On top of that, my experience with DJI Studio was buggy. It failed to correctly retrieve GPS data from footage shot on my Osmo Action 6, even though the DJI Mimo app had no issue with the same files. Fortunately, GPS data did work correctly with footage from my Osmo 360 and Osmo Action 5 Pro. Now I'm sure these issues will get fixed eventually, but right now it just reinforces the feeling that DJI's desktop software is rather half-baked. The next issue is the screen. Compared to competing remotes from GoPro and Insta360, this one has the smallest display. And in bright outdoor light, it can be difficult, or at certain angles downright impossible, to read. If you're wearing it on your wrist, it's manageable, you can just rotate your wrist to find a better viewing angle. But if you mount it to your handlebars in a fixed position, visibility quickly becomes a real problem. But by far the biggest issue and the most common complaint I've seen is battery life. And yeah, it's not great. After just a couple of hours, the battery life almost halved. That's not disastrous, but it does create constant battery anxiety, especially on longer shooting sessions. Furthermore, GPS can't be disabled, meaning there's no way to extend battery life short of using external power. For a device that's meant to be used outdoors, often for longer sessions, this feels like a major oversight. Overall, the DJI Osmo Action Remote is something I will keep using because its core features genuinely solve a real problem for me, especially with bike-mounted and body-mounted recording where the convenience is significant. That said, for the price, it's hard not to see this as the weakest value compared to what GoPro and Insta360 are offering. If you're a more casual user and you just want a remote record button for certain types of shots, you'll probably be perfectly happy with it. But if you're a power user who will rely on it as an essential part of your everyday shooting workflow, the limitations here are much harder to ignore. Let me know in the comments what you think about the DJI Osmo Action Remote and whether you'd still buy one despite its flaws.